What up? Marsh Pod, third podcast in pretty much 24 hours. Last two have been because of maybe the craziest day in SWBA history, so we're taking a quick break amongst these all-white walls that could double as an insane asylum here for me to talk a little bit about some SimWorld U. We talked Fox, we talked Luca, we talked Butler. Let's talk college hoops. That was my original plan for this slot until all hell broke loose over the last 2 days, and it became what it did with the league completely changing jerseys, names, zip codes, and everything. We're talking, though, for SimWorld U. Well, let's take a break. Let's go collegiate for just a moment. And wanted to take a look at this point in the season, a couple weeks into conference play, who would be the top four seeds in Hoopsteria in all four regions. Now, I'm not breaking them up by region. All we're doing is just looking at the four seeds. Who do we think would be the top four? Easy route would be to go and get the top 16 teams in the country, call it a day, and see what happens. We're not going to do that. We're going to look at each and every one. We're going to figure out what makes the most sense because I think that there's obviously some opportunities where the SP Top 25 got it wrong. One seeds. I think that's the easiest place to go. This one might be the easiest quartet to get right. But even here, I'm actually not going to side with what the SP Top 25 has done. The number one overall seed should and will be Duke. They have the star power and the depth that pretty much no other team in the entire country has. A top flight offense, talented defense. There's some flaws on it, but you look at Duke and you say pretty confidently this is the best team in college basketball. They also have 7 top 25 wins. Alabama, Memphis, Butler, UCLA, Kansas State, Michigan State, North Carolina. No other team has more than 5. This has been by far and away the number one team in the country. The fact that they dropped down last week to Kentucky is only because they were idle, and they are immediately put back in there after picking up a pair of wins this past week. They're the easy number one seed. The next number one I have is Georgia Tech. It's lottery-led talent in Donta Walker. He's probably a top 10 pick. They have good secondary options. They have good volume shooting group, and they force a ton of turnovers. They also have 4 top 25 wins, Georgetown, Michigan State, Kansas, and Kansas State. I don't think it should be a debate that Georgia Tech's number 4 right now, so I think that they might be your last number one seed, but Georgia Tech needs to be a number one seed in college basketball come Hoopsteria. My third number one seed is Villanova. They've got a talented central figure. Justin Bell, I think, is at least a top 10 pick next season when he comes out. They have great interior presence in the front court with Lovejoy and Williams that really impacts their own shots, but also opposing team shots inside. It's part of their really good defense. And they have 4 top 25 wins: Kansas State, North Carolina, Rutgers, and Maryland. Top 25 wins means things, and it should mean things. And it means a lot of things when it comes to who do we think is the best team in college basketball. And that's going to matter with the number one seeds. And then my fourth number one seed, I think this is where I'm going to steer away from where the SP Top 25 is. And I go with Alabama. Alabama, the team that just beat Kentucky and only moved up 1 spot to number 5 in the country. Yes, they're not a top 4 seed right now, but again, I think this is where the SP Top 25, I might veer away from their opinion with Texas being a top 4 seed. I think Alabama's the better basketball team. They've beaten the best teams. They've hung with the best teams. Their 2 losses on the season have come by a combined 4 points, and they have 5 top 25 wins, the second most top 25 wins in the country: Iowa, Memphis, Virginia Tech, Gonzaga, and of course, Kentucky. That last win should matter. A top 25 win against another team should matter. And it's why they're above Texas, who I think is the best number 2 seed. The reason for Texas being there: they have an elite offense. It's a good offense. They have really good playmaking. They are among the best shooting teams in the country. But they have not been tested. Despite the fact that they've gone on this long win streak, which is commendable, they have just 2 top 25 wins: Villanova and Kentucky. Kentucky might be the most flawed number one, albeit brief, team that we've had in recent history because of the number of teams. The fact that there's 2 teams above them that have beat them, and Kentucky was still hanging around there above Texas for so long in the SP Top 25 is surprising. But Texas, I think they can get back up there. And look, we're splitting hairs here on number 1 versus number 2 seed. But I think Texas just hasn't proven over the long haul that they are a top 4 team in the country the way that the teams, in my opinion, that should be and are ranked above them have proven that. So that's why I have them as the first number 2 seed in college basketball in Hoopsteria if I were to be the one doing the picks right now. Okay, second number 2 seed is Kentucky. It's still a good basketball team there. Two-headed stars, two-headed monster stars, really, with two guys in Glory Tate and Jamison Johnson, who are probably both going to be lottery picks. Elite offense, great interior defense. Here's the knock on them, and this is going to be consistent, which is surprising when I went through this. From our 2 to 4 seeds, not a lot of teams have racked up top 25 wins. Kentucky has one. It's come against UCLA. They've gone and they've lost twice to Texas, and they've lost to Alabama. So when they have been tested, they have not really aced the test all that well. But they're still a really good basketball team. Their offense has proven that. And the thing is, when you look at the rest of the top teams that we're talking about today, a lot of them don't have a lot of marquee tentpole wins like the teams above them do. My next number 2 seed is Iowa. Lamarian Sherwood should be a reason alone to make this team that high. They are a legitimate three-point shooting team. What I mean is they have 4 guys that are shooting 33% or higher. Other teams, they have higher percentages as a team. They might have more makes per game, but they're carried by 1 or 2 guys. There's legitimate depth in Iowa's shooting. Their top 25 wins, one of them to St. John's. That'll be a big test in the Big Ten. My next number 2 seed is Memphis. I think they have a real chance coming up to move up. Their offense is quick. Their offense is high power with Lacedarius Outlaw. They have playmaking up and down the roster. What they do may be better than any team in the country, not statistically, but overall, is they force turnovers, and they have one top 25 win that comes against North Carolina. On to the number 3 ranked team. So our 2 seeds are Texas, in my opinion, Kentucky, Iowa, and Memphis. Our 1 seeds are Duke, Georgia Tech, Villanova, Alabama. Let's go to the 3 seeds. Virginia Tech's my first 3 seed. This is a good basketball team. Second best offense in the country. They have great playmaking. They have scoring inside of the paint amongst the best in the country, and they have good interior defense. To be competitive in hoops area, I think you need to be capable and almost borderline overly reliant on scoring inside. They do that. Virginia Tech's 1 top 25 win comes against Butler. That's my first 3 seed. They're a step below our 2s, but you can make the argument for them up. I know they're like 6th or 7th or something in the country right now, but their track record against great teams has not been exemplary in my opinion. Number 3, my second one is Arkansas. 3-point shooting. They do it well. 3 guys at 36+%. That's real volume, and a handful of other good options. Guys that are above that 30-40% threshold, but just on the volume's not good enough to really say it's good. Much like Virginia Tech, great defense paired with great offense. A lot of these teams they have a great offense, and a lot of teams in the top 15 don't necessarily pair that with an elite defense. Right, there's a lot of, like in Iowa's case, we're going to just play up-tempo, we're going to we're going to score a lot, you're going to score a lot, but we think we're going to score more. In the case of Arkansas, they actually do both things really well. The problem with them is they have 1 top 25 win. They're really actually not a team, and I've seen people talk about it. How is Arkansas a top 10 team? They're really not when you look at their grand scheme of things, a top 10 team by definition. I think SP Top 25 has kind of held them up there. I don't know that they necessarily should. My third number 3 seed, and I think this is going to be maybe the most surprising one, is Princeton. They're a dominant defensive team, suffocating borderline. They are exceptionally efficient at scoring inside, and they do not care about three-pointers. Like I just said, I think being able to score inside is what's going to carry you in Hoopsteria, and that's something that Princeton does well. Meanwhile, they have 3 top 25 wins: Arkansas, Maryland, and Michigan State. Their resume, if you took away the name of Princeton, I think is a top 12. It's a top 12 team. They're currently, I think, 16, and this is the highest they've been since like the 90s when they were number 8 for a brief moment. I think this is a top 15, maybe even top 10 team if you look at their resume. But the fact that they're Princeton, the fact that they haven't played many people, which really, truthfully, is not true. They've beaten Arkansas, Maryland, Michigan State, like we just said. I think this team actually is really good. I have them as my third 3 seed, which would put them at 11. I think that there could be even higher than that. I think they could jump up to a 2 seed. They've got the game of the week coming up this week against Memphis. They play in a better American conference. We talked a lot in the early season about like Davidson and Jackson State. These are the kind of the newcomers. Princeton's been the best newcomer to the American Conference, and I think that we're going to see them continue to play well. And if they do, I think that gets them a high seed. And my last 3 seed is Maryland. They got star power, they got a great defense, and they don't force turnovers, which is really kind of hard to do, to not give up a lot of points, to have a guy that scores at a high volume, and to not give up a lot of points and not be it based off of just forcing fewer possessions because of turnovers. But the reason they're where they are, one top 25 win, it came against Kansas State, and they don't have a lot of efficiency, right? We get a little bit more, I should say this. They're where they are because they don't have a lot of top 25 wins, but they've been more efficient over the full scale of the season, right? Their record is just better than the teams that I have as number 4, despite the fact that they're sitting there at 15, which would profile easily as a number 4 seed. So to those 4 of them. I'll recap quick. Our 3 seeds, Maryland, Princeton, Arkansas, and Virginia Tech. Our 4 seeds, my first one is Butler. Defense, 3-point shooting. They have one top 25 win. That's against North Carolina. Talked about North Carolina previously. It was kind of a big question mark. Why are they there? Right? This is a team that had the lowest winning percentage amongst top 20 teams as of last week. What did they do? They lose. They lose to Duke. This is a team that has not managed a lot of top 25 wins, and they've been the recipient of a handful of top 25 wins going in the opposite direction. My second 4 seed is Indiana. They've got a lot of scoring options. They've got a very high-powered defense. However, one top 25 win, that came against Georgetown. St. John's, they just came off a pretty bad loss. They're my third number 4 seed. The reason they have very few top 25 wins. They've been more consistent, though, over the long haul, but they have just one win. It's against Princeton, who, again, I've got them higher. I think Princeton might be the better basketball team, even if St. John's gets the head-to-head. And my last 4 seed is UCLA. They've got an elite star, Jalen Snow, who for some reason is not in ESPN's latest mock draft. I think that's either an oversight, a clerical error, call it what you will. But they've got a high-powered scoring team. They're really great from deep, and they have 3 top 25 wins, Memphis, Gonzaga, and Michigan State. The problem is they've been inconsistent. 11-7 overall. It's the 3rd worst winning record of top 25 teams. But I think they just have the upside of a 4 seed. These are the teams that are missing the cut, though, okay? There's a handful of them, and they all kind of have a similar track record. Michigan State, I've got them just on the outside of a top 4 seed. They were initially in there for me, but they have no top 25 wins. I'd like to see them, despite having a really good run recently, string together top 25 wins. They haven't done that. North Carolina, talked about them. They've been the loser for a couple in those matchups, and they only have 2, UCLA and Iowa. We're splitting hairs almost with the teams that I put in as 4 seeds, but they just haven't had the track record, that worst winning percentage of top 25 teams. That's not a good thing. So it's not a team that I think should be top 25. Kansas is also on the outside looking in. Virginia Tech and UCLA are their 2 top 25 wins. They've been too inconsistent, as has Georgetown. They have 3, Texas, Princeton, and St. John's, but Georgetown's up and down season has just not been good for them. I think that we'll get a chance to see them coming up here in the next couple of games and weeks as they get into Big East play, but I think they're on the outside of that top 4. Gonzaga's on the outside because, same thing, up and down. They only have 1 top 25 win right now, and that is at risk of no longer being it, as Mississippi State has fallen all the way to number 25. So Gonzaga, who fell out, they're back in the top 25. That's a team that they need to be better than they've been and more consistent as Mountain West play starts. And then the last one is Kansas State. I think Kansas State, who is in the late 20s, actually has a very legitimate chance at getting into a top 4 seed if they play well in Big 10 play or Big 12 play. Indiana, Iowa, and Kansas. They have 3 top 25 wins. I think they have like 11 on the season, so a lot of them have come against that, but they just haven't beaten good basketball teams consistently, right? The difference between our top 2 to top 3 seeds and the ones at 4 and below is that they haven't been consistent. They haven't won at a consistent level time and time again, and beaten the teams that you should beat, right? That's Duke. Yes, has 7 top 25 wins, but they also have 7 other wins, right? They go out and they beat everybody. That's what we're not seeing from these teams on the bottom end of it. So again, our top 16 seeds, not SP top 25, top 4 1 seeds: Duke, Georgia Tech, Villanova, Alabama. My 2 seeds are Texas, Kentucky, Iowa, and Memphis. My 3 seeds: Virginia Tech, Arkansas, Princeton, Maryland. And my 4 seeds: Butler, Indiana, St. John's, UCLA. We're back on SimWorld today after a freaking flurry of content coming these last 24, 28 hours. All that continues on SimWorld today. Tomorrow morning, we will talk to you then on SimWorld TV.